On an afternoon in late October of 2019, the cities of Huntsville, Alabama, and Madison, Alabama would join the growing list of cities forced to look at one of the oldest and ugliest realities right smack in the face. Dana Fletcher, his wife, and daughter sat in their vehicle in the parking lot of a local gym. Within a matter of minutes, police would arrive, aggressively approach the couple and their daughter, then Dana Fletcher would lose his life. His wife left without a husband, his daughter left without her father. At question are the behaviors of the officers who arrived on the scene, the nature of the call that was placed into 911 that resulted in the police engaging Dana and his family, and the allegation of Dana having a gun and allegedly pointing it at the police officers. Releasing the 911 call and the body cam footage would seemingly take all of the guesswork out of this situation, but authorities instead want the community to trust them. And frankly, their track record doesn't warrant our trust. Today on my new show, Real Talk with Jay presents Conversations Around the Coffee Table. We will break down the occurrences of the past 2 weeks with our guests. Joining me today are Trent Griffin, Aneesah, and Terrance. And on the phone, we also have Miss Jessica Fortune Barker. And now it's time to start our conversation around the coffee table. Let's go. All right, so to begin our discussion, let's think back to Monday night, the town hall. I know we all probably have some thoughts on the town hall that happened. So who wants to jump in first?
Ooh, child. I think when I went to the town hall, my expectations were very high in regards to the number of people that turned out. I thought it would be very informative, productive. However, as soon as it started, it just felt negative. Not in the sense from the community, but from the sheriff and the DA. From the time you see the DA come in, he's looking at his watch. You know, he seems so impatient to even be there. He just, as soon as he speaks, he tells the crowd how he has another engagement and that he only has an hour of our time. And so I don't want to say that the event was a waste of time, because I think the community in Huntsville and Madison and Decatur and surrounding areas, because there's people there, I think they saw the importance of why it is important to know your elected officials. So I think that was an eye-opener for them. I do feel it was unorganized in the sense of how they didn't have a moderator, or how they didn't have one person assigned to take the questions from the community and ask. I think there should have been maybe a meeting beforehand, maybe a different day, or even that Monday, but with just the community, so everybody could vent and get their emotions out, because everybody had been waiting to come together and talk.
A lot of tension built up.
And then when you bring two people in who act like they care, but they don't care, and they don't even want to be there, it just raises the stakes. No pun intended. But it was a real eye-opener. And I just remember when I left, I keep saying how I looked at the community and they just seemed so defeated.
Yeah. I just want to give a big shout out to the community, because I was expecting a lot of people to be there, but it far exceeded my expectations. And they were ready, and they had some good questions. Even though we didn't get our questions answered, they came with the questions, and they know what they did want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the format was simply not conducive to what we needed to accomplish there. Mm-hmm. I think that the speakers that came had little to offer the public. In fact, many of their statements were exactly what they had written for the media to put out. Mm-hmm. I think that their answers, the ones that they did make, were very evasive. Mm-hmm. And I think also there were people that should have been there that were not there. Mm-hmm. I think that at a minimum, Madison Police Department chief should have been at that meeting, because I know they turned over the investigation to the Madison County Sheriff's Office and the district attorney, but you see that he said, well, the video evidence belongs to Madison PD. Mm-hmm. So we're talking to people who don't have the authority to help us achieve what we want to achieve. Mm-hmm. So I think it was not, I don't think that it was intentional, but I think it was not quite the right format for what happened.
Mm-hmm. And I hate that Madison seems to have completely disengaged.
Yeah, like they're pushing everything to Huntsville. Like y'all take
turn this over.
Yeah.
It's your baby now. Yeah. You gotta feed it.
Yeah.
And that's been a disappointing piece.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You want to say something?
I don't understand why the mayor wasn't there. First of all, the mayor of Madison, because there literally were no officials besides the DA and the Madison County Sheriff from Madison representing. There was, 2 people from Huntsville as far as the city council and county commissioner, but I don't understand why Madison hasn't kind of picked up the ball and said, we're here with the community. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think because of what they did to Mr. Patel,
they don't want to.
They already know that their name has mud in it. Mm-hmm. The way they handle that situation. But I was noticing, and one of the points that I made at the town hall was they released that videotape
immediately
in less than 7 days.
Yep.
They released that tape 6 days after it happened.
They sure did.
So for them to say that until the investigation is completed, that they can't release body camera footage or dash cam footage is complete nonsense.
Yes.
They can do it.
That's
they just don't want to.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So during the time, go ahead, Jessica.
Jessica, can I jump in? I think there were several things that probably happened before the town hall even got started. For one, the DA and the sheriff, they came into that meeting and we were already dehumanized in their mind. We already were not worthy of an explanation. As they stated themselves, we're not worth them producing the evidence. So when they came to that meeting, they already came in there on the defense, like, y'all aren't even worth anything to us. We're just here because that's a part of what we're supposed to do. And so I think that automatically set the tone to go in that negative direction that it ended up taking almost immediately. I also feel like the NAACP, as a leading organization and as many years of experience that they should have in organizing and strategizing, I think they missed an opportunity because once that meeting started turning in the direction it turned in, and especially once the DA and the sheriff left, they had so many voices and they opened up so many wounds and emotions that they should have automatically took that as an opportunity to begin strategizing with the community members and saying, okay, y'all, we're still here. What can we do going forward? How do we want to make these demands? And we should have started strategizing right there in that moment. And I think that as a leading organization, they really missed the mark in several ways.
And I think they missed the mark even before that. Because I could tell those families had not engaged with the NAACP. Otherwise, they would have already been in a relationship established with those families. When those interactions occurred, there was a lot of defensiveness. There was aggression. There wasn't a sense of, I know you. We done work together. I'm in this fight for you. So it leaves a lot, especially to me, the NAACP is that revered organization in our community that, seems to wear the cape of having the people's back when it's needed most. And I find it, for me, it's difficult to even say things that are negative about the NAACP. But I feel like we have to hold them accountable.
Well, not only hold them accountable, and I was talking with someone about that because I heard a lot of visceral about the NAACP. So I said, well, are you a part of the NAACP?
Right.
And the lady said, no, I'm not. And I asked her, well, why not? And she said, because when I needed them to address an issue that I was having, they did not have my back. I said, well, you know what? You can only change an organization from the inside.
Yeah.
So we it's time for us to take ownership. A lot of the people in the NAACP are older. They don't have the energy that we have to carry. They don't have the passion for the issues that are current, and they're not a large organization here.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is have a lot of people who are angry with what's going on with the NAACP to join the NAACP.
Yeah.
And the next time an election comes before the NAACP, guess what?
Yeah.
It's your chance to change the NAACP.
Yeah. And my wife and I had that very conversation. I was like, I find it difficult for me to even talk negative about them.
Yeah.
And I haven't done any work.
Right.
And
I'm the
so
same way. I had to
I've
do it.
already,
I got my application.
Yeah, I've already reached out. I'm like, when is the next meeting?
Yeah.
What do I need to bring so I can join?
Yeah.
Because
$30.
like I said, to
I'll
affect
tell you
change, you have to get on the inside.
Yes.
And I think it's because we have a Decatur Morgan NAACP chapter. When I moved back from Georgia in 2015, because there wasn't really a well-established black organization or some type of organization that can do social activism, they were the only one. So I joined in the first month, and it was a lot of older people in there, and they did not like my ideas. But because Ferguson and Baltimore had already happened, and it was still on the heat was still, and it was still hot, I said we need to be proactive and do a police forum here. We got the chief of we got the sheriff, chief of police, all the police union committee indicator department, and we sat down and had a 2-hour discussion about their body cams, who funds the body cams, the rules with the body cams. We did this in 2015, so I do agree that if you have someone who is willing and active to come in and not kind of make them change, but kind of like help them change, kind of demand it a little bit, I think they'll do it, especially if they see you doing the work.
Yeah. Because I don't think their intentions are bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have good intentions, but their ideas are not there. I mean, a lot of the leadership of the NAACP was active in the civil rights movement.
Right. And one thing that stands out, I had the opportunity to interview a guy named Dr. Bernard Lafayette. He worked closely with Dr. King during the Civil Rights era. And one of the things that he said, whenever they had something coming up, they practiced. They role played. Before the Freedom Rides, they literally practiced having people spit in their faces, having people say everything to them. Before they did sit-ins, they practiced. Yeah. So any scenario that came up, they had already been through it. They knew how to navigate it. That town hall, there was no practice.
That was a dry run.
And they were not prepared for the feelings, emotions.
Right.
They didn't know how to handle the crowd.
Yeah.
And if I feel like if others had been involved with the NAACP, maybe someone could have called that out.
Yeah.
And so I hope that they see some growth because people want to inject and be part. But like Jessica, I do feel like they missed a big opportunity because you had young people in that room, you had older people in that room. The opportunity to energize people to get registered to vote.
Yes. And can I say something? Because I'm actually in Montgomery right now because today was actually a millennial and Gen Z organizing caucus that they did. So we have over 40 students from universities across Alabama who are here, and I had the opportunity to present to them how the community organized. So NAACP is making strides towards that direction, but they totally missed the mark Monday night. I just want to be clear on that. We have to be totally transparent and honest. They missed that mark Monday night, and they know I'll tell them to their face because I say it.
So to change gears a little bit regarding the town hall, during the town hall meeting, we received a definition of racism.
After I asked the question, what do you think racism is? It's probably my fault. It was just way downhill from there.
So,
Sorry.
but let me play a clip so we can remind everyone of exactly how all of that came about.
We asked a question a while ago, and I don't know if Jermaine said anything to this, and you want to know what racism was. All right? Somebody said nobody was qualified to answer that question. I beg to differ. Let me tell you something. Racism is not against white or black. Racism is how another human being treats another one and how they deal with it. Yes, sir.
That's not
That was an attempt at a
You can't make this stuff up.
Sure can.
Now I will say, if you watch conservative news or read conservative media, that is how they're trying to redefine racism. They're removing the structure, they're removing the systemic parts of it. I believe as that very discussion continued, someone talked about racism and how it takes groups of individuals.
It's a team sport.
It's a team. That
Yeah.
was the term that they used. It was a team sport.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a very simple way to point it out.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts on that moment as our sheriff defined racism?
I felt that his definition was utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like he got up there and said that, he went to Johnson and the people in this community had helped raise him and all these other things.
Ivy locked some of you up.
Right. And you see these people, you grew up around these people and you know the struggle, but yet and still you made it personal about what it was to you. Even though the question was formed, what do you think racism is? That wasn't the answer. That's never the answer. Like, that's personal conviction. You know what I'm saying? What he answered. His definition of racism, like, that just lets me know exactly where his mind state is in regards to what's going on in this particular situation.
I find it ironic that at first he didn't answer the question.
Yeah.
And they didn't try to answer the question, but he thought about it for a while, and then that's the answer he gave. So this is an answer with thought.
That's right.
If that,
Yeah.
and that was ironic to
scary.
me because I was there when he came to some sessions that we had when they were about to be elected, and he gave the same "I'm your boy" kind of speech to the African American community, and he may have gone to Johnson, which was a predominantly African American school at the time he attended, and he may have lived in Northwest Huntsville, which is predominantly African American. But just because you come from an egg, don't make you a chicken.
Right.
Yeah.
Come out of snake.
I asked that question because I feel like I wasn't trying to set them up. I was just trying to show the community that they don't even think that this is a racial incident. They don't see the undertones of racism in it. They think just because he went to Johnson and he got black friends and grandma probably made him some food or something on a Sunday, that he understands black people. And so I just felt disrespected after asking, because the DA, he said, I don't have to answer that because you're going to believe what you want to believe.
And they were going to answer.
And he was so patronizing and arrogant.
He was.
And I was just like, they don't even understand why we're here. Like, they do not understand why we're here.
Right. And you know, in the business world, your leaders, or I should say the best leaders of companies and organizations have compassion for their employees and for its members. They show humility, and I think they genuinely look out for the best interests of the people that they serve. You don't see that with, at least with our police departments. The arrogance is there. The expectation for respect to be given as opposed to earned is there. And there's very little effort on their part to show compassion or empathy when things don't go as expected. There's little effort to take accountability.
That's right.
And it's always what I say, how I say it, and get over it.
Deal with it.
I want to qualify that because different precincts are different. I do think that North Precinct, they have put African Americans in charge, and those people are trying to be good stewards in our community. And they're having outreach activities, candy drives, days in the park. They're genuinely making an effort. So it's not, that's not all police departments in North Alabama together. There are some, and those in the upper echelons of leadership provide the consciousness for the overall department. But those in leadership at the precinct provide the consciousness for the area of those precincts.
And that's good insight because we don't want to paint with a broad brush,
Right.
but it's there.
Yes.
It's there.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate part. And so we have another clip that I want to play, and this one is Rob Broussard explaining due process. And there's another clip where Miss Regina Colston had the opportunity to kind of talk about white privilege a little bit. So we'll play that.
I understand that feeling, but if you look at the laws, if you look at the laws in this country and constitutional rights of those involved, it's not tried in the media. There's something called due process, and folks may not like it. Folks may want to know right now, but it's got to run through the system. However it runs through, and I don't care if it's an officer involved or not. It could be citizen, it could be a family member that's been killed. We're not turning over evidence to the public. Exactly. Because even if you have the evidence in the public, what's the public going to do? You're going to prosecute somebody? You don't have a grand jury. I do.
Thank you again, Mr. Turner. Good to be sheriff.
Yes, ma'am.
There's been a lot of vigilantism in the sheriff's department. And besides, I don't want you to ask me what that from everything.
Okay.
I want to encourage you to clean it out. Mr. Broussard, I have a white friend who told me years ago, Regina, all white people are racist. She didn't tell me that. Give him a microphone. She didn't tell me that to make me mad. She affirmed something that I do with it. The elephant in the room is white culture, white leadership. Exactly. You all need to understand that the world is no
And at that point, they pretty much cut her off. And I wish they really would have allowed her to talk.
Yes.
Because she had context with what she was saying.
Mm-hmm.
One, she was addressing that authoritarian attitude that Broussard was having when he was talking about due process. In other words, it being our way or the highway. And he had made a couple of statements about statistics, and one, first he said statistics didn't show that there was any kind of racism. Then he came back a little bit later and said something about that he hadn't seen any. And at one point, I had done some work with Faith in Action, and they have laid out quite extensively statistics regarding court cases and conviction rates and whatnot. And he's received that data.
Yeah.
And for him to sit in that room and say what he was saying, I was like, whoa. Yeah. And I think, and this is where you could hear the people from the NAACP telling them, what's the question?
Yeah.
And I wish they really understood what she was saying, because she was putting a lot on the table.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of the reason that happened was because of what Broussard said at the very beginning. I'm only going to be here for 1 hour. And there were a whole lot of people with questions. Yeah. And she wasn't asking a question. And every moment that she spoke were opportunities for questions to get asked that weren't able to be asked before they left. So I agree with you completely. What she said needed to be heard. But when they condensed that forum, because I didn't even complete my question, because I realized there was a line of people that were right behind me that all had questions too. So I said, well, I'll cut it off right here. But additionally though, Broussard speaks with a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of falsehoods. Okay, he said he's been in that job 31 years.
Too
long. That's too long to be a district attorney in Alabama, in Huntsville, Alabama.
Right.
That's much too long, because you get ingrained into the system that you're comfortable with, and you can't respect change.
What after the sheriff and DA left, I went and sat by Stephanie to ask her what the gentleman after that lady who spoke about what he was saying, because they even cut him off.
Yeah.
And basically what they were saying, just in case people don't know the statistics and data, which is important, she was saying how they got a third-party organization to come in and find this information.
And they paid for that.
And they paid for that. 75,000 cases over 5 years that shows and proves police misconduct. 75,000 cases in 5 years. That's insane.
Yep, and not only the misconduct, but it also identifies the disparities, but how it impacts the African American community. And that's the piece that Broussard really doesn't want to hear.
And that's a part of that teamwork that she was talking about. you know, the DA and the sheriff and the police department, they all work together. They all golf together. They all do, their kids go to the same schools and things of that nature. So, of course, they're going to look out for their friends.
Yeah.
So when she said that racism is teamwork, that's basically what they said, because Faith in Action brought the data, but the DA didn't want to see the data. He didn't want to see the truth. So he just said what he felt himself personally and not what the data shows.
And I got to say this, that last question that he made, that arrogant, flippant statement, well, what are you going to do if you know?
Yes.
I really wanted to tell him that it will allow us to heal.
Right.
It will allow us to unify as a community. It will allow us to understand what actually happened. Right. It will increase the sanctity of our community at that point, and will give us some confidence in the police department that they are going to do the right thing. That's what we're going to do.
Right.
But we didn't get a chance to really respond to what he was saying.
I think we did. They did respond. Well, he was like, well, just vote me out. And everybody said, we will. And so I thought that was important, because one thing about black people as a collective, we always remember how someone makes us feel.
Yeah.
And at that moment, he made everybody feel small.
Right.
So I feel like black people will always remember that moment.
Yeah.
Even if it makes them pay attention a little bit more.
That clip.
Yeah.
I'm keeping that
Yeah.
clip. It's going to be in rotation.
Well, vote me out. And they were sure like, sir, we will.
Like, he need to have that same energy.
Yeah.
And that's the moment we were all on the exact same
page.
Right.
Same objective.
But here's the thing, because it's been rumored that he's planning on retiring. And if he does retire, they're saying that he may try to handpick his successor and help them get elected. And so we really need to figure out how we get ahead of that.
Yeah.
We need to be identifying someone or some people now who can step in. There are a couple of national organizations I know, like the Real Justice PAC, Sean King, one of his organizations that he works with. They work to hire progressive district attorneys. And I think they've done like 9 to 11 throughout the country so far. Wow. Where they have district attorneys who believe that criminal, they believe that, the term is slipping my head right now. Because Rob Broussard said that there's no such thing as mass incarceration, that it's mass
implicit bias.
Mass criminalization, I believe is what he said. But mass incarceration is real. Yes. And but these district attorneys that they support work to bring in criminal justice reform, bail reform, and they're supporting those things. And so we need to, and I guess this is where organizations like the NAACP, Faith in Action, Alabama New South Coalition and others can probably help with getting some of these young attorneys that we have out here and say, hey, we need you.
That's right now.
You see how important it is to have judges in the right place, because the country is willing to accept bad behavior at the top simply to make those judicial appointments.
Right.
That's how important it is for us to have judges in place. And also, I heard that when he retires, that he's going to try to become a judge.
Oh my goodness.
So we need to keep an eye out on that too, because can you imagine that mentality?
Right.
Judging our young men and women,
right, when we
go to that
and they know, because of population, they're going to lose the majority, but they're going to keep the power through the judiciary,
right?
And that's why they're stacking these courts right now.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, because we have not exercised our vote, we're identifying this late. And the courts are already being stacked. Hopefully we can get involved and slow it down. But we really need to understand the impacts. And we're going to see this very soon. Because there's some Supreme Court cases coming up. November 13th. Right. Byron Allen versus Comcast.
Right.
1866.
Yeah.
Right.
That whole act can mean nothing.
Right.
Because literally what they want to do is make it so that you have to prove someone has 100% intent to discriminate you. How do you prove that?
Exactly.
You can't prove discrimination at all. It's hard.
And they know that.
Yeah.
And but that's what we're up against. So
we're at a point now where we're going to take a break from the show. Ms. D is going to come in and give us a segment of Dollars and Cents. so we can make sure that we are putting our financial empowerment in front of our futures. And we will return in a minute.
Hi, this is Denise, co-founder of The Wealth Culture and creator of Budget in His Bay. And this is today's Dollars and Cents segment. Today I'm excited to announce to you guys our new initiative, the Greater Good List. The Greater Good List is a list of organizations, charities, and associations that work to support or benefit issues that impact our community. And there are a lot of great organizations out there that are doing really great work, and they can use our support. Organizations that tackle important issues like education, youth development, economic empowerment, criminal justice reform, physical and mental health, civil rights, and social justice. On the Greater Good List, you will find some really big organizations that you may have already heard of before, like the United Negro College Fund or Black Girls Code. But there will also be some less known ones on the list as well, like the Legacy Flight Academy. The Legacy Flight Academy, I think, is so cool. It is built on the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen. The Legacy Flight Academy, also known as LFA, combines quality character development programs and aviation experiences that inspire youth to achieve their goals in STEM careers while becoming strong citizens and contributors to society. Helping organizations like the United Negro College Fund, the Flight Academy, or the many other organizations on the Greater Good List fits perfectly with the wealth culture philosophy that we are all in this together. We believe that supporting and encouraging our organizations makes for an even stronger community. So as you start getting your financial house in order and begin looking for opportunities to donate or to make a difference, check out the organizations on the Greater Good List. You won't be disappointed. I am Denise, and this has been your Dollars and Cents segment. You can check The Wealth Culture out online at thewealthculture.com or follow us on Facebook at The Wealth Culture. Thanks again, and you can catch me on Dollars and Cents in future episodes of Conversations Around the Coffee Table. See you next time.
All right, welcome back, everyone, and thank you, Miss D, for that wonderful segment of Dollars and Cents. Hopefully, we're all able to get some takeaways from that and figure out how we can give, donate, and purpose our money so that we're not only setting ourselves up, but setting the community up as well. So as we get back into our discussion, we're going to move forward a little bit. We're going to go from the town hall to the press conference. I have to honestly say, what happened at the press conference is what I was expecting to happen. We didn't get any release of video footage. We got more of the same, them anchoring down on the whole due process and investigation and having to wait. But my whole thing about the having to wait on the body cam, there's cities in our country that release body cam footage, and the jury pool isn't tainted. People's privacy doesn't seem to be impacted. It seems like all the things that they fear are not issues in the cities where they release body cam footage. That's the level of accountability that the leaders in our police department don't seem to want to have. They want to be able to control the narrative. Without the transparency, we just don't have anywhere to go to say that we trust what they're doing.
It's not just other states. There are places in Alabama, in northern Alabama, that have released body cam footage. If I had time there to talk there, Jonathan Dawson Davis, he's 29. He fled cops during a traffic stop on July 13th of 2017. Now, after he fled after lying about his identity and outstanding warranties. And so, in trying to run from them, he jumped off a bridge. Okay, 19-foot drop. There were posts from his wife saying the police beat this man up. Okay? There were so many posts on social media threatening the police about that one day later, they released the footage on their Facebook page to show that he jumped off the bridge by himself trying to escape. One day. when it is to benefit them, they have no problem. And that was, where was that? That was in Rainbow City, Alabama. When those people were having that fight in Athens, and that lady got arrested with those kids, they got in a fight and arrested on April 10th, 2019, this year. You know when they released that footage? April 11th.
The next day.
The next day, right here in North Alabama. They didn't have any
So the
problems.
common denominator seems to be who's the beneficiary of the footage being released.
It's very suspect because my thing is, you say he extended his hand, he had a gun, he had a weapon. It would be in their benefit to release it. So because they're not releasing it, it makes you question, what are you really hiding?
Right, exactly.
Because the two witness footages that were released on Facebook are identical to the wife's statement.
Right.
Down to them throwing her daughter down on the ground.
Right.
Him falling out the car and him being shot by the passenger seat. Them busting out her windows. I mean, it's very identical, and I think that when they release the body cams, it's going to show that they did a lot wrong.
And I believe it's going to
once
be
they pulled them out the car.
We're going to find that they were creative with their verbiage in describing the timeline and what happened.
That timeline, when I was listening today at that press conference, I was like, there's some things out of sync with what they're saying.
Right.
And some things that's absolutely unbelievable that could have transpired because of how they're telling. What they've had time to do is sit down and establish a narrative to come to the media and present without really any feedback, because if they come prepared and you're not prepared for what they're about to say, you have to think and process a little bit before you ask them intelligent questions.
Right.
And see, it's not about I know we're focusing on how it ended and the man lost his life, but it's important that we know how it started, the beginning and the middle.
And they talk so much about due process. To me, if you're looking at due process, you start with what caused the police to arrive on the scene. Typically, that's a call. So what was said during that 911 call? When the police arrived on the scene, how did they engage the scene? Were they aggressive? Were they observant? Did they have all the tools and resources they needed to even address the issue? Then once they address the issue, how are they doing it? Are they being respectful?
Right.
Are they are they on 10 as they start talking?
Yeah.
Right.
Are they creating the threat? And I believe the process that seems to be used is very subjective, and we need to have an objective outline of behaviors and practices that police should be executing to measure whether or not they did their job correctly. It shouldn't be subjective. Well, I think they did good. It should be objective. Did you de-escalate? And I'm gonna play this clip. I found it disappointing, the definition that they provided for what de-escalating is, or at least in the eyes of the police, I guess. So let me play this clip here.
It's in any situation, officers are taught to de-escalate a situation if possible. The initial officer did try to de-escalate. There was the verbal commands that he's given him to comply with him, to separate him from the weapon. That's his attempts to de-escalate. They didn't work, obviously. So, verbal lawful commands is de-escalation. And when I heard that, I was like, wow. And before he answered, he smirked.
Yeah.
And so it's like this is a game to them.
Yeah. I've had customer service training for the last 10 years. Whenever you work with people, citizens, most of the corporate jobs I've worked, they train you on customer service. The first thing that you do is you always show empathy of some sort. Hey, sir, you know, we got a call. I don't want to scare you. We got a call of some people asking questions of your description. You know, we don't want to judge. We want to be respectful. Hey, did you do so-and-so? Did you do so-and-so? You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't know how to communicate.
Yeah. Is it that they don't know or they don't want to?
They don't want to.
That desire.
And I don't think that they showed their family any type of respect as soon as they approached them. Mm-hmm. There's no way that if you have a call, you got a call from anyone and you approach a man, that you have to get to the point where you're tasing and sicking a dog on them. And it's not one or two cops, it's a whole unit of cops outside. Yeah. Like, there is something that needs to be addressed in regards to how they're let me quickly say this, sorry. I was watching the Stranger Fruit documentary about Mike Brown, and they stated that 59% of officers are trained in regards to physical combat, only 10% communication.
Yeah. And since you brought in the training, typically your highest educated officers and most trained are placed in your most affluent neighborhoods. Those families get that. They get the protection and the serving. We get the patrol and controlling. The officers that they typically place in our neighborhoods and are those officers who are coming out of the military, probably suffering from PTSD. Those who don't have a college education, and not to say that a college education is necessarily needed to be a police officer, but there should be some expectations for continuing education so that they get to that point, because it's proven that, you know, when you have that degree, you do things a little differently. And that's not to say that those who don't, you know, can't, but there's some stats behind that. And I believe if we have higher expectations for our police officers, then across the board, not just in the affluent neighborhoods, but in all neighborhoods, that, you know, we could probably see some different interactions and engagement, because those police officers that just roll up and treat you any kind of way, is it a question of, do they know how to de-escalate, or are they unwilling to de-escalate? We know those officers in the good neighborhood can do it, but have the officers in the quote unquote not so good neighborhoods, have they been exposed to that training?
You know, it's kind of funny, ironically, when I was looking for information about body cam footage release, I saw the video of Madison PD responding to the incident with Mr. Patel, the Indian gentleman that was thrown to the ground. And I had to watch it 3 times before I realized, one, how quickly after they engaged him, how they threw him to the ground. And you could hear their conversation. And they were saying he wouldn't listen to my command. Well, the first thing that I heard them say on that video, he didn't speak a lick of English. You already know he doesn't understand you. And so you're going to treat him as though he was not obeying your commands when you know good and well that he did not understand your commands. Right? And that right there lets you know that their training is insufficient to deal with anybody who is different than they are. You know, what if he was deaf?
That's right.
He couldn't hear him.
Not only that, I mean, when I'm working out, I've got my headphones in my ear.
Right. Yeah.
And if I have a hoodie on, you can't see this.
Right.
You know, and our officers need to know the different scenarios. I feel like in any profession, you know the scenarios you're going to face day in and day out. And I don't want to underestimate what police officers do. They have one of the most, dangerous jobs that's out there. Right. But I always say, with great power comes great responsibility and accountability.
Yeah.
And I expect better of the police.
Yes.
And one of the things that I keep seeing and I keep noticing is that, you know, this is kind of a racial thing, and it does have racial undertones. But when police officers interact with people that are not black, there's never, you know, this angry type of situation. And I won't say never, but it's very rare that there's this anger that comes with them when they come to patrol or do their job as far as, you know, traffic stop or whatever. It's only when it comes to black people, melanated people, people of color, that they have the anger and the animus towards us. Like, they understand how to patrol. They understand how to get someone in. They understand how to get people out of the car. They understand how to handcuff. But when it comes to us, it's just like all the rules go out of the window. And it's more of a control thing and not them doing their job.
Right. Well, I don't, and this probably goes beyond police. Next time you're in the grocery store and, you know, you walk past people, look to see who looks you in the eye and nods their head or says hello. You know, I see people working not to look at me. and it usually comes down racial lines. You know, you walking down the aisle, typically at some point your eyes meet. To me, it's unnatural for you not to feel my presence as we're walking by.
And another thing I think is that I hate to make, well, no, it's just the truth. So Tennessee State did a study. A black organization that had at Tennessee State years ago, they did a study to where they literally had black students walk in the same direction as white people. And the white people would never say, excuse me. They kept walking like they didn't see them. They did this to about over hundreds of people. It was like month. This is a study that they did. That says a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
And I've kind of done that study myself. She gets mad at me sometimes because she was like, "You're not going to move." No, I'm not going to move. You see me coming.
Yeah.
And I'm acknowledging you. You not acknowledging me. So, you know, at this point, I'm tired of being the one to concede.
Yeah, that's right.
I was looking at some data from City Lab, and I wanted to know, you know, how many black people are killed by police, or how much more black people are killed by police than white people. But it was interesting. Every group of color is killed more often by the police than white people, except for one group. Can you guess who they are?
Asians.
Asians are killed less than white people, and I'm wondering why that is.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's that, you know, black people are some of the largest people on the planet. Are they intimidated by our size or stature or musculature or whatever, to where we seem like that we are the most aggressive, so they mirror that back to try to get respect from you. You know, in addition to the racial component.
Well, that's what Dr. Francis Cress Welsing explains in the ISIS papers. Is how they perceive us as this dominant force, and with their insecurities, because they have a gun, they have a weapon, they have power, they utilize it. That's why I think it's not just, we can't always just focus on the physical behavior. We have to get to their mentality, because how they think, what they think about us is important. You know, that the thought comes first, the action comes after.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I have another clip that I'm going to play. In this clip, during the press conference, they talk about trust, and they use a code word, the community.
Yes.
So often, when you hear people use the term community, it's really the opposite. It's a specific group of people that they reference. But I'll play the clip and then we can kind of talk about it afterwards.
We ask people not to do that. I mean, we ask people to be patient. Most everyone's been patient with us. We're above board on everything. We've put out all we can put out. I know there's people out there that have put contrary statements to what we're saying. Really, at this point in time, all we can say is you got to trust us and you got to believe us and you got to make a decision. We have overwhelming support in law enforcement in general in North Alabama from the community. So we're confident that the community will trust us and they trust our findings and they trust our investigators in the process that we have. So we just ask them to continue doing that. Any outside forces from outside of Madison County, please do the same thing. Respect the citizens of Madison County, respect what they want, respect the process and the elected officials and people that they put in place and cooperate with us.
And so when I heard that, I'm like, so who are we?
That's right.
Aren't we the people of Madison County?
That's
Aren't we
right.
part of the community?
That's right.
Well, it depends on if you read the comment section of that after they post or at WHT or whatever.
Yeah.
Because there's a portion of the community that is ultra supportive to the denigration of everybody else, that the police should be absolutely trusted
And respected.
Right.
and respected. And
not questioned.
and not question, but respect is earned.
That's
Right.
right.
If you haven't earned that with that portion of the community, then why do you expect respect?
Right.
And why do these other people think that we should not be able to exercise our First Amendment right to express our concern and dissent for things that we feel like is not fair to us?
Right.
They get indignant that you have the audacity to speak about issues that you concern you. But the boy talk about the Second Amendment right. They want to be verbal as all get out. You know, that same freedom of speech they enjoy it, they don't want to impart to you. And I can't understand that for the life of me.
Yep, it's a mystery. And that Second Amendment piece doesn't apply to everybody
Equally.
equally.
Yeah.
That's because that plays a part in his case if he had a gun.
Right.
Because if you listen to that press conference, he says they seen the gun
In between the seats,
and the alert went up. It became, that became defensive then.
Right. Why? Went up too, because I'm like, how do you see a gun between the seats?
Right.
And that
goes back to that timeline not really matching up.
Yeah.
Because one, when you do hear in the second bystander video that was released, you hear when the officer says he has a gun. That officer sounds completely shocked.
Yeah.
Or like that's he doesn't sound like somebody who already knows that.
That's right.
He seems to be alerted.
Right.
And see, that other officer on his side, on the passenger side, had already been wrestling with him. And then when you see the guy, the one officer on the right side with the yellow taser run around the front to help the other officer assist with the wife, they don't see that the officer to the right never mentions that he sees a gun.
Right.
So that's right. Like, I don't think that they saw a gun.
And to me, that body camera footage again would help validate that timeline.
That's right.
And during the town hall, Kevin Turner said something that really kind of hit me the wrong way. When he said something about the body. He said the video is not going to show you everything, but we've got the evidence.
Right.
May or may not.
Yeah. And when he said that, I was like, that sounds like some Rudy Giuliani saying truth isn't true.
That's right.
I mean, come on.
That's right.
Yeah. I just have a hard time understanding why they can't at least show you a
Planet
picture.
Fitness. Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
We went to Planet Fitness today, and I'm so sorry to cut you off.
No.
We went to Planet Fitness today, and literally where we, marked his grave with flowers and stuff. Literally, there's a whole camera that's straight where their car was, that's where their car was. That camera is on the left side of the Planet Fitness, literally right there. And then it's another one on the other side. You remember the first video with the white lady?
Yeah.
I'm assuming she's a white lady. There's a camera literally where she was in between those columns. So they have the footage. They have a lot of footage.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's important we ask for those as well too, and I'm sure they got them.
Yeah, they probably have them, and they probably giving it to the police.
Yeah.
Oh, they had to.
Yeah.
They
But from watching the bystanders video, it doesn't go with what the police are saying.
Yeah.
No,
and it shows a
all.
lot.
And it does show a lot. It shows everything that his wife said. Her statement and what we saw from both of the bystander videos line up completely. But when it comes to the sheriff's department and the DA, their stories don't line up with what we see with our own eyes. You know what I'm saying? And they're telling us, don't trust your eyeballs that are in your head connected to your brain. Trust these words that are coming out of my mouth. Because I'm not going to get you to the video.
And one question I didn't get a chance to ask at the town hall.
But you asked great questions.
and I had to go back and watch it because I told my wife the questions that I thought I asked, and she was like, "No." So when I went back and watched it after you posted the video, I realized I had not asked the questions that I thought I had asked. So one question that I was intending on asking was to Rob Broussard, if the video eventually comes out and anything less than him standing, pointing, and aiming a gun at an officer comes out, will he prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law for not being honest? That was one of the questions that I was intending on asking. Because I feel like when it does come out, it's going to be less than it. It's going to be less than what we're not going to see a clear point and aim like they're saying. It's going to be something else.
Blurry.
You know,
and I didn't see him stand.
Exactly.
When I heard gunshots, I did not see anybody standing. No, well, I didn't see.
Yes.
What do you mean?
When you slow the video down, you can see him. He comes out of the. I can't say that was a stand up. That was like a fall.
His body jilts,
right?
Like it freezes.
Because I'm assuming that is the
taser.
And so when you're tased,
your body locks.
You lock up.
Yeah.
And then you see the officer fall.
Yes.
Then he falls. Then you hear the shots.
Multiple.
And the distance between I believe it's the fourth and the fifth shot, the amount of time that passes.
It's a pause.
I'm like, what was that?
Yeah. It was like pow, pow, pow. And pause, pow.
Right.
Yeah.
And, was that the exclamation mark?
Right.
Yeah.
And another thing that I noticed from the video in regards to training, there were two officers that were, I guess, posterior to the passenger door, the driver door, and you can see them when they switch hands from taser, gun, taser, and they're both like literally in sync doing it. So that lets you know that there has been proper training, because both of them are standing there and they're like 1 1 2 2 1 1 2 2, but they're doing it at the exact same time. But you have to watch it, and it's kind of quick, and it's like they move it off of them, but you can see them switching from gun to taser to gun.
Like they can't make the mind up.
Yeah, like they can't make the mind up.
To me, the video look confused, like nobody had proper training.
Right.
From when they sicked the K9 on them, it's like the K9 didn't even want to stop. And they kept trying to pull the K9 back, and I thought K9s listened to the commands as well. And then the lady who was assisting the officer trying to get him out the car, she didn't look like she knew what it looked chaotic.
Yes.
Right. And if you think about it, so according to the press conference, when the first police officer arrived on the scene, he saw the gun, the alleged gun, in between the seats. So you would think on that driver's side, once they got the wife out that there would have been more of an attempt to come in on that side if there's a gun there.
Yeah.
Once they get her out, they don't make an attempt to try to get in the van.
And who wrestles with someone with a? They said they were wrestled like they were. He was trying to disarm them. How long do y'all, wrestle with someone you think is a threat?
Right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, there's a lot wrong
Yeah.
with that timeline. And so, this last clip that I'm going to play is going to highlight the inappropriate questions. I'll just play the clip and then I'll talk afterwards.
A citizen called 911 at 4:40 p.m. saying that there was a red and white van in front of Planet Fitness, and the occupants of the van have been inside the gym taking pictures and asking inappropriate questions.
Explain maybe what these inappropriate questions, is such a broad term, what they were, and if both the man and the woman were asking the questions?
I'm not aware of the details of the questions. That would be something the investigators had put in their supplement, in their report, that I do not have in my statement. But it was enough to have someone call in to address the suspicious vehicle in the parking lot.
I have a two-part question kind of, relating to that. Do you know what the nature of the call was? What did the officers kind of go there expecting? Can you kind of give us any indication of what the caller actually said? Does that make sense?
I think I said it pretty clear, Ashley, as far as them inside of a business taking photos and asking inappropriate questions. A person called in and wanted a police officer to check that vehicle to find out what their purpose was.
And that was kind of the extent of it?
I think that was the extent, and then it took the course it took.
So the findings of the investigation have found that they were asking inappropriate questions. Then he turns around and says he doesn't know what those inappropriate questions were. So how do you have findings and you don't know the details of something, and you're using a subjective term, inappropriate? That, to me, if you're saying something is inappropriate, you should have objective proof.
Yeah.
Right. How does he not have that information?
And again, if it was inappropriate, like there's some things people say that everybody across the board will deem disrespectful or inappropriate sometimes, depending on what it said. So if they think it's inappropriate, then tell us. That'll benefit y'all. But y'all, everything that y'all are saying this family did, y'all won't release it, and y'all are making it as if it benefits y'all, but y'all aren't releasing it. So, like today, for example, at the protest, when we were talking to the media, we said white people stop calling the police on black people for day by day doing daily normal functions, because I don't think, from my understanding, and she even posted this on her Facebook today, the wife, as far as, they auction and they sell like things they find from estates and stuff like that. We don't know. She could have just asked a simple question to someone. That's why I think it's important that they release the 911 call, so we can hear it.
There was a story on AL.com in September of 2016 where the police explained the body and dash video release policies, and I thought it notable that two of the police chiefs say they would show a video of a circumstance if it's for the greater good of the community. And most departments say that body and dash cams really speed up the investigations and they help resolve accusations quickly. These are people in charge of police departments that have studied this and have come to these conclusions. I don't understand why in this pocket of Alabama that it's the converse. And believe you me, it was tough even getting body cams on the officers. I attended city council meetings and provided data from other departments that have showed these exact conclusions when they were trying to vote on whether or not to get body cams. I just don't understand why everything has to be so counter to the common understanding that's everywhere else.
Yeah, and it's almost it's to the detriment.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of the confusion, a lot of the hurt, the anger, the mistrust. It could literally come to an end with the push of a button and the viewing of a video.
Right.
And then at that point, you can literally say the healing can start.
Yeah.
Right. At a minimum, let the family see the video.
Right.
The family can convey through their attorney what is on that video to the public. I agree in some cases, we as a public aren't entitled to everything that happens in everybody's lives. But the family of the person that was affected by this incident should certainly have insight. And it saddened me to hear the mother of Ms. Ragland, who said it's been 5 months and she still hasn't seen what happened to her child. That is a travesty of justice. Her child is in the ground. There is no case that it's going to affect other than something civil if the police did something wrong in that situation. And that mother should have the closure of being able to view that footage. And it shouldn't take 5 months.
It should not.
And they couldn't answer that question when she asked.
No.
Not one. And the other mother who stood up and checked them, because she checked them. They couldn't answer her either.
They couldn't. And they couldn't answer. They couldn't provide any empathy. They didn't display any compassion. And to me, that was the most troubling. Even if you don't have the answers, if you're in a situation where you can't give the answers, you can provide empathy. You can show compassion. And in their eyes, that's weakness.
Yeah.
And so that's why they don't do it.
And body cams were brought up for the public.
Right.
That's why that whole, I can't remember what shooting it was. I can't remember if it was Mike Brown or if it was Tamir Rice. But you remember it was all in the media, body cams for the public. And they all have them and y'all still don't honor the public.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're at a point where we're almost ready to wrap up our show. We will be back in a moment to do that. This is Real Talk with Jay presents Conversations Around the Coffee Table. We'll be back in a moment. All right, I'm Jay, and we're back to wrap up the show. Before we go,
we've had a heavy topic today, so we want to end on a lighter note. I've got some questions that I want to ask the guest. So I'm going to throw the questions out and you guys just jump in. So right now, we're almost at the 9 o'clock hour in the evening. That's the dessert hour. What is your favorite dessert?
Oh, carrot cake.
Cheesecake.
Caramel cake.
Banana pudding.
Yeah, I love banana pudding too.
Oh, that's an extra hour at the gym.
Yeah.
All right, next question. If you could have breakfast in the morning with anyone from history, who would you sit down and have coffee with?
Me personally, I want to sit down with Martin Luther King. I think he would be someone that I could learn from in a very short period of time.
I think mine would be Stokely Carmichael. Your wife. Just with his integrity and his intelligence and his I think people we love Obama swag, but I think no one really had swag like Stokely Carmichael. And Ali. Their confidence was on another level. So I would say those.
I would say Ida B. Wells. I would love to pick her brain as to what all she actually saw when she was doing her writings.
For me, my answer changes all the time. This kind of depends on where you're at. For some reason, Red Fox has been in my mind. And when I think about comedians that just make they could get raunchy, but they were funny, flat out funny. And for me, that's Robin Harris and Red Fox. But I want to sit down with Red Fox and have him start my day out with me just laughing, laughing. All right, one last question. Trying to make this a good. Oh, Jessica, you being quiet over there.
Well, I mean, because that was a phone and I didn't want to interrupt. Somebody better bring family cake, and I was sitting down with Jesus because I got a lot of wives.
All right.
That's funny.
So we are approaching the holiday season, and if you could have one wish come true for the holiday season, what would that wish be?
The liberation of black people.
Come up a little closer to
The
mic.
liberation for black people. Not having the anxiety that black people have to deal with on a daily basis. I feel like in 2019, this shouldn't still be our struggle. You know, if we could just imagine all black people feeling comfortable, like not just one person, but everybody as a collective.
Right.
Just imagine the magnitude of what we could do with this world, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I guess for me, because I'm constantly thinking, every time it seems like in the U.S. political system, we'll go forward and then we take 2 steps back. And I'm like, what if we just kept going forward? So I would probably wish back to 2016 and a different outcome so we could keep going forward. Because I've been back long enough. It ain't great again to me. That's just to me, though.
Right. Yeah, for a lot of us. It ain't great.
Let me lean in close. Reparations.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
That sounds like a whole nother show. Jessica, what you got?
I would say peace for our children. They're dealing with a lot. Even in the Fletcher case, with Dana Fletcher and his child being exposed to that. I feel like we just need to cover our children and provide more support and protection. I would really want to protect our children.
And I guess for me, homelessness. At this day and time, we have enough resources. We shouldn't have people out in cold weather like this with nowhere to lay their head but a cardboard or, you know.
Right.
But yeah, homelessness, we would end that.
Yes.
So, folks, I appreciate you coming. I know this was last minute.
That was great.
And I think we've had a chance to make new friends this evening.
Yeah.
And I hate the circumstances, but I like that we're able to come together and have a discussion on things that are impacting our community.
Yes.
If we could identify one takeaway, one after action, what is that going to be so that we can affect change? Because I don't want us to just sit there and have this discussion and we leave and there's nothing. So what's the one step that we need to take that we can act on that will affect change?
I think just stay proactive with everything that's going on in your community. Laws, official changes, like elected official changes. Just stay aware of everything that's going on around you.
Me personally, We need Black Wall Street.
Yes.
We need to get on the same economic accord. We need to get on the same.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
I know. But you asked.
We're gonna have to do a reparations and Black Wall Street
we
show.
need to get on the same page a lot of things, because when stuff like this happens, we'll flash get on the same page, and then after it's over, we go back to where we were.
Yeah.
We need to get on the same page and start turning it at the same time and get ourselves economically independent. We need to handle our judicial issues internally, and we need to advance as a culture.
That's right.
Rather than as individuals.
That's right.
My takeaway from this, hopefully, is that the community stays proactive. Like, we shouldn't have to have these type of situations for us to come in and evaluate the DA and the sheriff. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to be looking at it not just 6 months before the election, but the day of the election, going forward to the next 2 to 4 years. We need to know what's going on, and these people need to see us from the community saying, you know, this is our community and this is what we want from our elected officials.
Let's groom our own politicians. Like, we need to do that. Like, we should have a committee
We got to be grooming our own DA.
Yeah.
Because what we have now, oh my God.
Joffrey.
and for me, that takeaway is voting. Whatever I can do to be impactful on helping people see the need for voting. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why I have this podcast. The people who make our laws, we vote them in. The judges that are elected, the judges that are appointed, all of that's impacted by voting. In Texas, we had opportunity to see all those women get elected into their seats. And that was what we saw on the surface. But behind that, because you had so much increase in voter registration, when the Botham John case came, that jury pool was enough so that it was a truly diverse jury. If those folks didn't register, we wouldn't have had, even though some of us were disappointed in the outcome, we wouldn't have had that outcome.
Because we don't even get that.
But there's a whole snowball effect once we register to vote. We can be part of the jury. The candidates that we vote for can win. Those candidates can make laws that support us. And we have to understand that, because I see too many posts where people make the argument that voting doesn't matter. And I can understand why people feel disenfranchised. But if we have just one election where we're at 80 or 90% voter turnout.
You flip everything.
Yeah.
You flip everything. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I mean, because we struggle to be at 40, 50%. How many elections have been lost if we would have just been at 60 or 70? And people don't understand that impact. Jessica, do you have a takeaway for us?
I say it's time that we get together and devise an agenda. We don't have one massive, these are our demands, and so we can't really get behind anything in our community because we don't have that just, this is the agenda we want for our city, our county, our state, and Black America as a whole. So I think we need to start working on an agenda.
All right, so we're just about ready to close. I want to remind everybody to think about November 13th in the Byron Allen versus Comcast case. And there's another case, was actually not a case, Rodney Reed. He is up to be executed. There is evidence out there that pretty much exonerates this man, and they're refusing to present it to the jury. Go figure. So let's keep all of that in mind. There are a lot of action steps that we can take to infect the community in a positive way. I would like to challenge everyone to do their part. And until next time, this is Real Talk with Jay presents Conversations Around the Coffee Table. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you. Good job.